Kate Milafalcha. Welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Um, I heard a little story. This was spurred by a random video that popped up on my phone. Um, I'll be uploading or downloading something, on YouTube, and YouTube videos present themselves to me. Sometimes I just can't figure out why they think I'd be interested. But because it's my favorite thing to complain about, I did pay attention to a video I got about the English royal family. And I just had to share what I found out. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. I discovered pretty quickly that it was hard to get solid facts. So it's a little bit of a meandering story here that I think you might be interested in. It's a nice distraction. So the English, they love to complain about this bold scheme that happened in 1671 to steal the crown jewels by Colonel Thomas Blood, who was Irish, by the way. Now, the crown jewels are kept in the Tower of London, and they're still there. They caught him. In 1907, the Irish crown jewels were stolen from Dublin Castle, and they've never been found. And there's an element of irony in using the term Irish and crown in the same sentence, but we'll gloss over that. In 2009, the Graf diamonds were the main target of a larger group of jewels worth 40 million pounds that were stolen from England. It was the largest gem theft in England. I don't think they've gotten those back. And in 2015, the Hatton Garden underground safe deposit facility was robbed for 14 million pounds of jewel, not pounds weight, pounds monetary value of jewels. Now, these are not the only times that precious gems were involved in a robbery having to do with British Empire. Because all of these jewels, almost, 99.9% of them, were either outright stolen by the British Empire, and let's call it what it is, by the royal family, from all corners of the empire, while they were pillaging, looting, and occupying, colonizing. And there were some that were gifts, but almost always they're sort of these coercive sort of gifts to placate, to seal treaties, to tie up loose ends of disputes of war and land ownership. The current value of the crown jewels is up for debate, but, as much as $6 billion. $6 billion with a B. So what are we talking about here? I had an interesting time poking around trying to get this information. So it's a little bit scattered, but it's interesting. So we're talking about things like the imperial diadem or the imperial crown. This is the big hat that Charles wore when he got, crowned earlier, the coronation. It's made of solid gold, and the gold alone is like 2.3 pounds, but it's also got silver and platinum in it. So I found a list of the jewels. 2,868 diamonds, 273 pearls, 17 sapphires, 11 emeralds, 5 rubies. So let's go back to the diamonds. The gold and silver and pearls by themselves are worth about 15 million. The miscellaneous emeralds, rubies, and diamonds are as much as 300 million. The Rubies include the Black Prince's ruby, which was worn by Henry V at the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. That's estimated about 150 million, and it has a history which we'll get to. It also includes this thing called the crown jewels, not the crown jewels. Okay, so the crown is the hat, also known as the imperial diadem. The crown jewels refers not just to what's in the hat, but what belongs to the royal, poobah. So they also claim what's called the Stuart sapphire. It's a 104 carat Stuart sapphire worth 50 million. The St. Edward's crown, which originally was worn by Edward the Confessor in the 11th century, which is worth 57 million. And actually, you go back and look at it, it was part of acquisitions, the jewels in it, acquisitions from South Africa, India, and Burma. So one of the things to know about a lot of these crowns and doodads is that they shift the stones around, obviously, according to taste or whatever. We'll talk a little more about that in a minute. A lot of these are acquisitions from South Africa, India, Burma. So there's a lot of debate. Who really owns these things? They were gifted under duress, stolen, acquired, and often from empires that no longer exist. I mean, the people are there, the mines are there, the land is there, but who's to say? So there's a lot of debate. For example, the Kohinoor diamond. The Kohinoor diamond is in the other crown. So what's his face? Charles wore the imperial crown, the imperial diadem with all these millions and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gemstones. Camilla, couldn't remember her name. Camilla. She wore the other crown that contains the Kohinoor diamond. And this is a true symbol of colonization. It has an irreplaceable value. The historical value is like 6.5 billion, but the history of it is such that it probably could never be replaced. By the way, FYI, the coronation, that little ceremony, cost the English taxpayers 113 million pounds. So what else have we got to talk about here as far as crown jewels? There's the orb and scepter. These were made in 1661 for the coronation of Charles II. I feel like, well, I'm not going to worry about it. One of those guys. Between 1630 and 1685 was when he was king. And it came originally, the jewels in it include the Cullinan I, or the Great Star of Africa, the second largest cut diamond in the world, which came originally from the Premier Mine, is the name of the mine, in Africa, slave labor. And it was taken during colonization. And it was put eventually on a scepter called the Scepter with the Dove, which was made in 1901 to the tune of $760 million. So this imperial crown, the crown of empires that Charles wore, has over 3,000 stones in it. It's worth, total worth about 6 billion today. It's the state crown. It's the most valuable crown in the world. It has the Cullinan II diamond in it. And it includes a ruby called the Black Prince ruby. And every single stone in this crown is a legacy of war and colonization and pillage. Now, the crown itself, globally, the crown is a symbol of ultimate power. It's also a symbol of extravagance, and the English believe it's a symbol of divine right of kings. So the first version of this imperial crown was put together, like the first modern version was put together in the 15th century. And then today it was redesigned in 1937 for George VI. It was redone again for Elizabeth in 1953. And it's full of treasures of colonial expansion and plunder. And then the orb and scepter are symbols of I own the world and I rule the world, the ball and the stick. Okay, let's see here. So these jewels are kept in the Tower of London under extreme security. The public is allowed to see them, but nobody may wear the crown except the reigning monarch. And all of the crown jewels include far more than just the headset thing. There are over 100 pieces, or 23,000 gems. And I'm going to guess most of them weren't dug up in England. So there's the regalia. We talked about the orb and the scepter being worth 400 million. Another part of the regalia is the spoon. Sorry, I can't take this seriously. This is a 10.5-inch filigreed sort of silver gilt spoon. It's got a weird bowl that's divided in the middle. And it's used to anoint the king, has been since 1349. Now, what brought me down this little road of discovery was the mention of this tiara that Kate Middleton was seen wearing of late, and I guess it's well known she wears it all the time. And I'm thinking about the poverty level in England right now and how many people are desperate, and the near collapse of the National Health Service, and we could go on, couldn't we? So meanwhile, these people are prancing around with billions of dollars of stolen gems on their bodies to prove they're in charge. And, history of theft and genocide, enslavement. So the tiaras, let's talk about those. There's the Cartier Halo Scroll tiara that Catherine wore on her wedding day, 1.5 million. The Nizam of Hyderabad necklace. This was taken kind of under duress, but not really, but yes. In 1947, the ruler of Hyderabad, Ashraf Shah VII, gave it to Queen Elizabeth II as an engagement present. And this is sort of assuaging, the head of the empire, because at the time, that's what we're talking about. It was designed by Cartier in 1930. It has 50 diamonds in platinum, and it's worth $800 million. Then we have the Williamson Pink Diamond Brooch, which was given by a Canadian geologist in 1947 to Queen Elizabeth. It's 23.6 carats, this pink diamond, and it's worth approximately 33.9 million. Let's just round it up to 40 million. Why haggle? So there's quite an amount of jewels, artwork, artifacts stolen en masse or taken as gifts in treaties, bounty, booty, and taken back to England. And some of them are in museums, and some of them belong to, and I love this word, aristocratic collections. And a good number of them have been lost or stolen and are in hiding. But the colonial administration took most of them by force. Now, that's historically accurate, and good luck trying to get the details. I tried, and I'll tell you what I found out, but I have many questions. And I actually reached out to Asia Radin, who wrote the book that we did, Stoned, about precious jewels, and I just sent it. So I'm hoping to hear back from her, and if she has more facts, I will do a little extra part 2. But in the meantime, I needed to get this recorded. So the Kohinoor diamond came from the mines of India, the alluvial floodplain mines, they said, of India. And it's described as having a blood-soaked history. The British East India Company had it. It was stolen from the native culture after the Anglo-Sikh, S-I-K-H, wars. The British East Indian Company gave it to Queen Victoria in 1850. And India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan have been asking for it back ever since they got independence. And England refuses. There are a number of repatriation campaigns globally directed at England, trying to get these things back, put them in their own museums. So the Black Prince ruby we talked about, it was looted from the mines of either Tajikistan or Afghanistan. It's a little uncertain, but they didn't find it in Newcastle. There were gold artifacts that were taken from Ghana, something called a ceremonial cap and sword made of gold. Myanmar, which was Burma, part of the empire at the time. There are a number of rubies and diamonds that were stolen from them. Then we have the tiara that's all a Twitter about Kate. The Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara. Now this has an interesting background. It has started out commissioned in 1913 by Queen Mary, who was the grandmother of Queen Elizabeth II. 1913, she had this tiara originally put together from diamonds and pearls. I could not for the life of me find out where they stole those jewels from. I tried. And if you know, I'd be happy to find out. But she had it, she wore it. The pearls were taken off. It was refashioned and given as a gift to Queen Elizabeth II in 47 as a wedding gift. Then there's the diamond bandeau tiara, which was made in 1932. And this has a funny story. So, as you know, Meghan Markle is not best beloved, and there's a lot of interesting conversation around her. This tiara she wore at her wedding in 2018, but that's not what she wanted to wear. She wanted to wear, and I think this is very much in keeping with conversations around her, she wanted to wear the single most expensive tiara owned by the British royal family, the Grenville Emerald Tiara. Emeralds are like the most expensive stones, my understanding. $12.6 million. It was created in 1919 by assorted stolen gems that they had. So Meghan wanted to wear it, and Queen Elizabeth said, I don't think so. It wouldn't be a good look because there's so much scandal attached to it. And a couple of years later, Princess Eugenie wore it for her wedding. And there are a number of other artifacts. I just wrote a handful down that belong to other countries and are being contested continuously. 200 plus bronzes from Benin, which Nigeria. made in the 13th century. In 1897, British troops went in and sacked and looted and stole more than 900 historical objects, including these 200 bronzes. Nigeria has been trying to get them back since 1960, and the British Museum will loan them but not give them back to them. Then, of course, there's the Parthenon marbles, aka the Elgin marbles, stolen from, I believe, the Ottoman Empire, I think Greece, well, obviously Greece, but they were taken in 1801. They were systematically chipped off of the Parthenon in between 1801 and 1805 by Ambassador Lord Elgin. And the British Museum refuses to return them and calls them, their removal, a creative act. Greece is still trying to get them back. And then there's a little item called the Rosetta Stone that was stolen from Egypt by Napoleon and stolen from Napoleon in 1815 by the English. And they're hanging on to that. And here's a little article that I had never heard of, and I think this is fascinating. There's a great picture of it. The Tipus tiger, Tipus. Look it up. It's fascinating. It's an almost life-sized wooden semi-automaton of a tiger, and it's standing over a prostrate soldier of the East India Company, and it's mauling him. And it, as I said, it's semi-automaton, and I don't know if you wind it, or I don't know how you make it work, but it goes after this guy, and he makes noises and tries to defend himself, and it's almost life-size. So this was made for the Tipu Sultan in the kingdom of Mysore in the late 18th century. So, India area. And they lost the battle that they had in 1799 to the East India Company, and the Sultan was killed. And the East India Company, it sounds like a corporation, but it was really a private military. No, So the Sultan was killed, and they stole the tiger. And they also dismantled their throne and took that too, and brought it to the Victoria and Albert Museum. Then there are the Magdala manuscripts, which are more than 1,000 religious scriptures, writings, manuscripts, taken from Ethiopia in 1868 and brought to England on 15 elephants and hundreds of mules. And there are 350 of them in the British Library, and I could not find anything about where any of the others might have been. So this is just a little trip down memory lane. I thought it was an interesting thing to think about. The next time you see some big hoo-ha going on in London, and they're all tripping about in gowns and crowns, remember the people who died enslaved under the earth digging these things up, and the war and looting and oppression and colonization that went on, that allowed these people today to run around with these things on their heads and around their necks and in their ears. And yet they complain and moan about how they don't get enough money from the British government. It's not enough to be allowed to wear these things that were stolen, essentially. I mean, they were crafted often by the English, but components were all stolen as a result of mass death, war, famine, suffering, bloodshed. But I don't really have any opinions. I just thought that might be interesting to think about We have a book coming up soon about wealth and poverty, kind of all ties together. So thank you very much for watching, and slán go fóill, sláinte.